Good evening. Mr. Ambassador, professors, fellows, and students of the college, members of the civil service, and honored guests. My name is Greg Clancy, and I'm the master of Tembusu College at NUS. Welcome to the 5th Tembusu Forum and the first of this academic year. The forum series was founded and is chaired by our esteemed rector, Professor Tommy Quah, who is also Singapore's ambassador at large. Now, my normal role in these events is usually to introduce Professor Quah and then listen from the audience. Tonight, I regret to tell you that Professor Quah has taken ill and is unable to chair the forum, so I'll do so in his place. Now, Suang, his wife, assures me that it's not serious, he's not hospitalized, so I'm sure, knowing Professor Quah, he won't want us to overly worry about him, but to get on with the show, which we're going to do. And we're filming it so that he will see everything that happens. But his doctors advised him to stay home tonight, so for the first time, we are doing a Tembusu Forum not in his presence, but in his honor. And this occasion is very much to honor Professor Quah. 2012 is the 20th anniversary of the Earth Summit, the first United Nations conference to put climate change on the global agenda. It was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in June 1992, with 172 governments participating. 108 of those governments sent their heads of state. 2,400 NGOs also attended, bringing the total number of attendees to 17,000. The two big achievements of this summit were the first climate change convention, which in turn led to the Kyoto Protocol, and the Convention on Biological Diversity. In fact, much of the world probably heard the phrases climate change and biological diversity because of what happened 20 years ago in Rio. Now, why is that significant for us? It's because the chairman of the main committee, which organized the Earth Summit 20 years ago, was none other than Ambassador Tommy Quah. He had previously served as Singapore's ambassador to the United Nations and was obviously so well respected within the diplomatic community that he was given this major task, which he fulfilled brilliantly. In 2006, the UN honored Prof. Quah by naming him a champion of the Earth for bringing the Earth Summit to realization. Now, we all know there have been similar summits since 1992, and they've not necessarily been as successful as that first one, except perhaps to increase global anxiety about the lack of decisive action. Now, we can blame ourselves for that, and our fellow citizens, and maybe our governments, but Professor Quah, champion of the Earth, certainly did his part 20 years ago, more than his part, to move this agenda forward. So it's only right that 20 years on, here at Tembusu College, we do our part, our small part, to move this agenda forward still. To take up the challenge begun in Rio. And we've done so by choosing to mount one of our two senior seminars, which are the flagship courses at Tembusu, around the subject of climate change. This gathering tonight inaugurates an ambitious new module taught by no less than 9 PhDs involving around 200 students from every NUS faculty and looking at climate change from a variety of perspectives: scientific, social, cultural, political, diplomatic, etc. This course is being coordinated by Dr. Jerome Whittington, an anthropologist educated at the University of California, Berkeley, who joined us from Dartmouth College in the US, where he worked on the at the Climate Change Justice Center. And if Jerome is here in the audience, could he rise, please? And, all right. Now, I know that the term global climate change seems quite daunting, if not paralyzing. Whenever you encounter something in this magnitude, it helps to try and understand it and thus demystify it. And that's what this distinguished panel is going to help us begin to do tonight. And they're going to take another constructive step forward by also localizing it. Now, I'm not an expert on climate change myself, but I am an historian. And one of the things I've studied and written about is natural disaster. I think historians tend to be what I'd call realistic optimists. We're realistic because we know, as much as any discipline, how terrible people can be to each other, to the environment, and to themselves. History is not the happiest of stories. On the other hand, history is a record of human survival against great odds. We've done a surprisingly good job of surviving all sorts of things. When my parents were your age, they were almost certain that they'd be eventually killed by atomic weapons. Hasn't happened. When I was your age, adults frightened us with something called the population bomb, which meant that there would be so many people on the planet they would all run out of food and starve to death. That didn't quite happen either. A few decades ago, the hole in the ozone layer was threatening to expand so rapidly that everyone would get skin cancer. Again, didn't quite happen. Now, all those things might still happen. They're still all threats or risks. But we bought time because we were so nervous and anxious about them that intelligent people talked, found solutions, acted reasonably, and dodged disaster. The current global discussion about climate change is so crucial because it's part of this continuing human process of dodging disaster, which through some element of skill and luck, but most of all through focus, we've managed up till now. So, with the aim of saving the world, I give you tonight's distinguished panel. Following Professor Khoo's custom, I'll introduce them one at a time, invite each onto the stage for no more than 20 minutes, and then ask them all to join me here on the stage to take your questions for another 20 minutes at the end. Our first distinguished speaker is Ambassador Burhan Gafoor, who is Singapore's chief negotiator for climate change and currently senior director at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Ambassador Gafoor is an NUS graduate from the Department of Political Science, but went on to receive an MA from the John F. Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University. He also has a degree in public administration from the École Nationale d'Administration in France, where he was Singapore's ambassador from 2007 to 2010. Prior to that, he was ambassador to the World Trade Organization and to the UN in Geneva. And he's also been accredited ambassador to Portugal and Turkey. He's served in many other capacities, but actually among the other many things in his resume, he was press secretary to the Prime Minister. I just found out over dinner he was actually at the Earth Summit 20 years ago with Professor Khoo. I think the only one in the room with that distinction. So, Ambassador Gafoor.